Welcome, good people. Welcome to Everyday Leadership. I am your host, as always, Sope Agbelusi, and it's an absolute pleasure to be with you today. And we are going to be delving into a subject that has been coming up quite a lot today. We're going to talk about less is more. We're going to delve into the art, shall I say, of strategic subtraction. I can't say the word properly. Strategic subtraction. To prepare ourselves from going from good to great. And see, there are a lot of times when we think about going from good to great, we think it's about accumulating more. We think it's about doing more. We think it's about gaining more information, more knowledge, more contacts, all those different bits and pieces, which can be helpful to a point. But there are other times when actually for us to go from good to great, it's about actually what can you let go of? What can you subtract? And when you do that, it allows you to be able to unlock our potential to actually achieve excellence. Sometimes the best additions to your life isn't adding more, it's subtracting. It's about clearing out the clutter, not just physically, you got mentally, you got emotionally, but all of that is around focusing on what really matters. Every year, once a year at the start of the year, me and my wife do this routine where we will create about half a day to ourselves. We go away and we just spend the day, the half a day reflecting on our goals. What's the year been like? All the good things, the bad things, both personally and then also as a married couple, and then as parents. And then what is it that we want to achieve this year? We sit down, we take that time, we pray, we write stuff, discuss things. This year we decided to take it a step further and we went to Morocco. It's the advantage of having kids young. There are some perks. It takes about 18 years, but we're finally paying off. We went to Morocco for a couple of days and we did that while we're out there. And for those of you who don't know, my wife, and heights are not friends. She gets really bad motion sickness, to be fair to her. So when it comes to doing things, when it comes to heights, she's always like, nope, that is not my bag. Good luck with that. But I was like, why don't we go for a hot air balloon? And she said yes. That was a big surprise. So we did. We went for a sunrise hot air balloon. And while we were out there, for us to ascend, for the hot air balloon to go higher and higher in the air, they had to let go of some of the weight. They had to shed some of the weight, some of the sandbags that they had to allow us to go to higher heights. And this is exactly the same thing I'm talking about. If you want to go to higher heights in your life, you must be willing to let go of those sandbags, whatever they might look like. And might I just say this? Sometimes those sandbags are things that are going well. It's not always about things that are going wrong. It's not always about negative relationships. There are things that are going really, really well. But just because they are going well, it doesn't mean that it's going to take you to where you want to get to. So you're thinking, that sounds great. But if I do want to do that, how can I do that? I'm glad you asked. I want to introduce you to a very simple framework. It's called GREAT. See, simple. The G is for growth, R is for relevance, E is for excess, A is for alignment, and T is for thriving. See, I'm giving you some gems that I give to some of my clients. I pay a lot of money for this, but I thought it was necessary to just share this very, very simple framework, the GREAT framework. See, that growth, that G, it's asking yourself the question, does this contribute to my personal professional growth? The relevance, the R, is this relevant to my current goals and future aspirations? The E for excess, is this an excess in my life? Is this something I can do without? That alignment piece, that A, does this align with my values and vision I have for my life? And that T for thriving is holding on to this, preventing me from thriving. That one, ooh, that one always gets people because that sparks a whole different conversation. Let me kind of take a step back and walk this great framework through. I'm going to give you a very, very practical example. When I was running my previous consultancy business, it was going really, really well. It had allowed me to be able to step into a space where I was leading turnaround projects. I was making a lot more money than I was doing previously. So financially, we were good. And I was having fun and enjoying it to start. And halfway through, I started to realize that actually, when I left corporate and I took that leap of faith, what I set out to do, I'm just doing some elements of it. I'm not doing all the elements of it. I wanted to be working with senior leaders and coaching them directly one-on-one. I wanted to be able to work with teams and organizations and transform them from the inside out. Now, with the work I was doing with the turnaround projects, it gave me some leeway to do that, because turnaround projects, they're losing money. There's no real red tape. And I could bring teams together. I could reshape things. I could move certain structures. I could have certain conversations. And it got me access to the C-suite. So I'll be sat down with a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I'll be having a conversation late at night and talking about his family, his marriage, his aspirations, and conversations that were actually very, very impactful, because they will let me know, oh, based on our conversation, I did this, I did that, had nothing to do with my work. So I was doing that in one realm, but it wasn't what I wasn't doing that all in. So I started to think about, how can I go all in properly? And that's when mindset shift started. It's about 6 years ago now. But as I was doing my turnaround projects, which was taking up a lot of my time, because like I said, this company's losing money. And then you come in and you start to run a project and you turn it around, which I did. But it takes time and effort. I was dealing with teams, probably about 6 teams internally. Externally, I probably had another 3 or 4 teams I was dealing with. And then there's internally, and externally. But then there's also internationally. So I had countries, I think about 4 or 5 different countries in Europe, some countries in India, China, South Africa, depending on what it was that we were doing. I had multiple conversations that I was having, as well as the US. It was draining. It was tiring. And therefore, the amount of time and effort that I had to be able to think about mindset shift and focus on mindset shift in the way I wanted to wasn't quite there. So I thought, okay, what's the easiest low-hanging fruit that I can apply? Because I already asked myself that question. Does this contribute to my personal professional growth? Now, yes, it was contributing to my personal growth because the money was coming in and my family needed the money. My professional growth, however, it really wasn't. So the answer was no. Is this relevant to my current goals and future aspirations? Is my previous consultancy relevant? No, it's not where I wanted to go. It was tapping into some new skills, but utilizing some old skills. And that was a question I had to ask myself and recognize that. Is there an excess in my life something I can do without? This. I can do without the 12 to 14-hour days that I was churning out. I can do without being tired and being physically and mentally drained. Hey, does this align with my values and the vision I have for my life? The answer is no. That's not what I wanted for my life. That's not what I wanted to model to my kids. And is holding on to this preventing me from thriving? The answer was yes. So once I'd gone through the growth, the relevance, the excess, the alignment, the thriving questions, and I knew this wasn't where I wanted to be, I knew I had to do something. So before I delve into that, I've got a question for you. I want you to think about that framework. Growth, relevance, excess, alignment, thriving. Does what you are doing right now contribute to your personal or professional growth? Is it relevant to your current goals or future aspirations? Is there an excess in your life? Something they can do without? Does what you're doing right now align with your values and the vision you have for your life? And is holding onto this that you're currently doing preventing you from thriving? Ask yourself these questions and look at it across the spectrum of your relationships, your careers, your habits, and your friendships, which I know goes into relationships, but I'm going to look at your relationships, might be with your family, might be with your kids, might be your romantic relationships. Then look at your careers, look at your habits, and then look at your friendships. That's kind of how I want to look at it. But just think about that for yourself. Because as you're thinking about that, I want to then move you into another area that can help you as you're navigating. And that's the power of creating empty spaces. I always talk about space a lot because it's super, super important. But I want to kind of explore this concept of empty space a little bit more. So empty spaces are areas in our lives which are cleared of clutter and distractions. They then become fertile ground for innovation, for creativity and growth. Ultimately, that's literally what those spaces are about. And let me give you a very good example. One that you'd be very, very surprised. So, way back in the day, this company was not a standalone idea. It was a byproduct of a different project called Audio. Audio was a platform for finding a subscriber into podcast. We're going way back. So podcasts were just coming about. And when Apple announced iTunes would include a built-in podcasting platform, Audio's future was suddenly at risk. iTunes, Apple are coming to the market. I mean, naturally speaking, we're like, what are we going to do? They're massive, they are global, they have a lot more resources. Literally, they got scared. But then what this created was an empty space, a need to pivot and find a new direction. And during a series of brainstorming sessions, basically aimed at like reinventing this company, the idea of a micro-blogging platform came about. This concept involved short, succinct messages. It was very radically different to all the audio focus audio, what they did. So they have a lane, which is audio focus. That's audio. ODEO, audio, like them actually. But new players are coming into the market, is shaking things up. What do we do? Let's take a step back. Let's breathe. Let's think. By letting go of their original business model and embracing the emptiness that Apple's announcement created, Audio gave birth to a platform called Twitter. That's literally how Twitter came about, a platform that revolutionized how you communicate on social media. Now, Twitter is now X, and taken over by Elon Musk and it's completely changed. I'm not going to go there, but how this came about is something that most people are not aware of. They embraced strategic subtraction, but it came from an empty space. That is the power of empty spaces. And one thing about this whole concept about empty spaces is for you to just step into them, for you to take that less is more approach, is what I'm talking about. You need courage. Courage plays a vital role in less is more. It takes courage to let go of the familiar, very much like Audio did, very much like I had to do. And even when it's not beneficial or relevant to your current goals, courage is key. It's often easier to hold on to what we know rather than venture into the unknown by creating those empty spaces. And I always go back to this imagery of the sculpting the marble, because that's something that's stuck with me over the years. Like imagine a sculptor working on that block of marble. The art isn't just about what they're carving. It's also about what they decide to remove. Each strike of the chisel removes a piece of that marble. And in the act of removing that piece, that sculpture begins to take shape. It takes courage for the sculptor to make each cut, removing what was once part of this beautiful marble piece, but trusting that these acts of subtraction will lead to a work of art. And that's exactly the same in life. Removing habits, removing people, removing jobs that don't serve our greater good. It's daunting, but necessary for creating our masterpiece, creating the life that we want to live. If I circle back to my story and my journey, when I'd gone through that great framework and I made a decision, we went into COVID and lockdown. And even in that period where there was a lot of uncertainty, I was fortunate enough to be in a position where my consultancy was still going really, really well. We were still making a lot of money. But in that, I still made the choice and decision to shut it down and go completely all in a mindset shift. That took courage because it wasn't his decision. In a time when everyone, thought leaders, experts, all these people, all online, where it feels very noisy, it feels very saturated, where people don't even know what's happening to them and they are scared. I chose to lean into courage because I knew the answers I had got from doing that great framework a while ago. And therefore, I could wait, but wait to when? That's the question I had to ask myself. I've worked with clients on this framework. And in fact, there was a person I was working with that had been in the organization for 24 years. And they were brilliant. Got all the way to the top in a C-suite, doing their thing. And we got into a conversation, and my client wasn't happy. There were certain things happening in the organization that, for the first time ever, was just frustrating them and annoying them. The CEO was moving a bit, mad. It was moving a bit different. And normally they were able to shake it off, but there's something around that situation that just rubbed them up the wrong way. And we got into a conversation, we started to work together. I walked them through this framework, and they kind of realized that what all this agitation and frustration was coming from was the fact that he wanted to do something different. He wanted to step away. He had an idea that he wanted to step into, but he was scared. But your mind and your body starts to bring up stuff in a very, very different way. That's why some of the issues that were happening in the company were frustrating a lot more than they would have done. That's why when the CEO was tripping, it was getting to him more, because it's like, I don't need to do this. I don't need to put up with this. But he needed courage. He needed courage to step up and then step into that empty space that he was going to create for himself, which would then help him to move forward and go from good to great. So when you think about courage, when you think about empty spaces, it's okay to acknowledge a fear. Understanding that it is very normal to feel scared when you're letting go of stuff. And acknowledging that fear is that first step towards managing it. I had to acknowledge a fear. When I chose to walk away from my consultancy and go all in on this, I was scared. How am I going to do this? I don't have the contacts. I don't have XYZ. 6 years ago. So I had to acknowledge a fear. And therefore, I can definitely resonate with my clients. I'm like, it's okay to feel fear. But then visualize that outcome. Keep that clear vision of the goal in your mind. What would your life look like once you made it? How would it feel? There's an exercise I go through with them, even like, how do you want your day, your weeks, your months to look like? How would you spend time with your family based on what you are creating? How would you start? Like all these different elements, that visualization process, it walks you into that future state and then brings you back to, okay, now I'm feeling that energy, I'm feeling that joy inside bubbling in me. I really want to do this. And then you start small. Begin with a very small subtraction. What is the one thing I can take away? Now, this could be decluttering your workspace. This could be scaling back a social commitment. This could be letting go of a board role, letting go of a friend. You know, that might miss for some people, but you know what it is. Small successes build that confidence needed for the bigger challenges. And then seek support. You got family, you got friends, you got mentors who can offer encouragement, advice, and a different perspective. You've got coaches like me. And by the way, I do have some exec coaching spots available to take on. So if you're interested in doing that, if you're interested in having someone partner with you on this journey, please reach out. Drop me a DM either on LinkedIn or email me at hello@mindsetshift.co.uk or go to the website and reach out and let's have a conversation. As you're listening to this, acknowledging the fear, visualizing the outcome, starting small, seeking support. Those are practical steps that help you to harness your courage and step into that empty space. As you begin to embrace this less is more philosophy, both courage and strategic subtraction play critical roles. By courageously removing the necessary and emptying space, you create new possibilities for personal and professional growth. Just like that Twitter story, which I'm sure most of you have not necessarily heard of, it shows that the best invention and best breakthroughs come from what we choose to let go. The best inventions and the best breakthroughs come from what we choose to let go of. I have to say that again. So I hope listening to this episode, you are inspired. inspired to consider what less is more might look like in your life. Remember, it's not just about getting rid of things for the sake of minimalism. Listen, it's about making more room for your growth, for your creativity, and the pursuit of what really matters to you. Whether it's personal goals, whether it's your professional achievements, or simply just having like a more focused and fulfilling life. The power of strategic subtraction can be very, very transformative. Like I said, want some help? Reach out. I'm here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. Again, just drop me an email. I want to end with this. It's this quote. Sometimes the best addition involves subtraction. Clear out the clutter to focus on what takes you from good to great. By removing the necessary, you create the necessary room to breathe, think, and grow. This deliberate act of letting go allows you to concentrate your energy and resources on the pursuit that truly matter, enhancing your potential to achieve excellence. It's about making strategic choices that elevate your standards and refine your path to greatness. This is Everyday Leadership. We'll see you next week.